Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast of Champions. This is a review of Champions. My name is Lord Deathman, and it feels like I've been away for quite some time, but I hope you'll welcome me back as I turn to talk with the group today about Chapter 6 of Andor, probably one of the best Star Wars shows I've seen on Disney Plus, if not the best. We're going to be talking about episode 6, The Eye, a daring heist, Imperial TIE fighters, uh, deadly double crosses. I don't know what this episode didn't have or how you could be unsatisfied with this show as a Star Wars fan if you saw it. But we're gonna, as always, we're gonna have the group, the panel, break it down to see what's what. Today we've got a small group in the house. We've got Taylor. How you doing today?
Good.
And we've also got Grandmaster. But don't let the compact size group of fool you. We're really going to do a deep dive into this, and since we have a few less people today, we're probably going to have a little bit more time to go in depth about our opinions. So I'm so excited to start talking about this. But before I do, I want to let you know there are going to be spoilers for this conversation in terms of this episode of Andor. So if you haven't seen it already, go check out The Eye. Just put it on pause. Click pause if it's in the computer, on the TV. Watch the episode, then come back and unpause, and then you're gonna hear an incredible analysis and breakdown of the episode. But let's get started proper. I am going to ask the panel in the first question, what were your quick impressions of the show, this particular episode? Did you get what you wanted? We know that they've been holding this heist out for a long time. It's like, oh yeah, we're planning and we're prepping, and you're seeing them at the rebel base, and they finally give it to us. So what I want to know in your first impressions is, do you feel that it was worth the wait? Starting with you, Grandmaster, initial impressions of The Eye.
Well, I'm going to start with the eye. What an amazing view, spectacle in visuals. Absolutely fantastic. It was worth the wait. I absolutely love this episode. It was slow paced, fast paced, and yeah, I don't know how, but it was perfectly paced. Slow where it needed to be, fast where it should needed to be. It was really well done. And not too much dialogue going on, but you constantly knew what was going on, which I always like when it comes to big action scenes. And yeah, it was exciting. It was suspenseful. It was dramatic. And yeah, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, gorgeous episode. A lot of the background, the scenery, the production design,
Yeah.
seeing those rolling hills of wherever the F they are in the world makes a whole lot of difference instead of seeing like stagecraft technology where it's a fake desert, that goes on for miles. But one question before I go to Taylor for you, Grandmaster. So this show really doesn't seem like it's designed to have like a tweetable moment or a cliffhanger at the end of every episode, or those kinds of accoutrement and entrapments that we're used to as fans. How are you feeling about that? This seems to be a deliberately paced, kind of slower show, but still satisfying. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't need big moments every episode for me to call it good. One of my favorite movies of all times is Once Upon a Time in the West. The first 20 minutes of that movie, nothing happens.
Yeah, nothing.
Literally nothing happens, and I absolutely love that. And I'm not comparing this to Once Upon a Time in the West. There's no hair on my body that will ever think that, but this show at least knows what it wants to do, takes its time, does it well, and that's on its own completely satisfying. And like I said last week we all expected the heist episode to be, and then it wasn't, but it was still very good. And this is the same. I mean, the show does everything what it needs to do right, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's written for the millennial social media generation. It seems like some grown-ups were working on this one.
Well, we have had a very busy time in the last few months, I should say, with streaming shows coming out on a week-to-week basis. And I'm happy to say that for 75% of those four shows that I'm talking about, they're doing a good job. Well, check out our other review if you want to know what the 25% is that did a not so good job. But no, but they are. We're living in a very growth moment in TV history where you have excellent shows where you look forward to every week. And I love that it's not like a binge show. You get it every week in small doses, and it's absolutely perfect.
Right. And the doses you get really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for those notes, Grandmaster. Hopping over to the man who wants to enjoy a Coca-Cola today, we'll be talking to Taylor about getting those initial impressions about episode 6 of Andor. What did you think?
I got everything I wanted from this episode. I thought the execution of the operation that they have been planning and teasing for the last 2 episodes went off great. It was extremely well executed. I love the scenery, just like you said. I love that they're shooting on locations, and it does, it just does have a more real feel to it than even the best video technology that they have out there today. It just gives it a gravitas. You felt, I mean, when the team was in their Imperial uniforms outside being inspected, you could feel the wind. You could feel that it was cold out there, because they were in a real place, with real clouds.
Yeah.
So that was good. And then like I said, the execution of the operation, I loved it. It felt like some of the great war movies from the past, like The Guns of Navarone came to mind while I was watching it. Just brilliantly executed, and the whole show, the acting is all top notch. The writing is fantastic. So yeah, I've gotten everything I wanted so far out of this show.
Yeah. And I mean, Taylor, when you really talk about the quality of the writing, they're introducing you to these characters and you're getting these vignettes of their life. They're not doing a super deep dive, but you kind of find out what everybody's personality is, what they're in it for, what the stakes are for them. And then some of them are dying. I mean, do you feel like these characters are so well drawn that when they do check out, that you're actually caring about it? Some people
Yes.
don't make it back from the heist.
Yeah, it's a masterclass. They're doing this in such a way that every character, even minor characters, the Imperial commander of the base, we only saw him for a few minutes, but we know about his family life. We know about his career goals. We know everything we needed to know about this jackass.
We know
and
he
then
can't get that sash across that waist.
Exactly. And then for the main characters, the members of the unit that did the operation, some of them got killed, and it was just like they're dead.
Right.
There was no, speak to me, don't quit on me, like you get in all these other stupid things. That's not first aid, by the way. I don't know why they do that in movies. And then told my wife I love her. We didn't need any of that. Boom, they're dead. They're gone. Their fight is still happening. Move on, like a real situation.
Yeah, people just check out. I'm thinking of Tamarin, the ex-stormtrooper who he just gets hit by a blaster, and he's just lying there, in the most
nothing you can do.
Nothing you could do about it. And they don't even have. It's not like someone's going to bravely go try to collect that body, or there's a note for his family. Let me read it out to you guys, because I love to do so much, right? None of that, everybody understood the risks and people. This is the same ethos that I think the Gilroys brought to Rogue One as a film. They're like, let's treat this like it's a war, and no one has time for these terms of endearment, if you will.
But between the writing, the shooting, and the acting, they're telling us everything we need to know about these characters, and we're learning more than some productions who give us, 5-minute soliloquies about them and flashbacks and everything else. We still know more about these characters than we do about those other ones sometimes, just because it's so well executed.
Yeah, I think they're just avoiding a lot of the cliches, especially cliches you would see in other Star Wars shows. I'm really sorry, but nobody's talking about the power of friendship or family or we're getting a more nuanced sort of shaded look at who these people are. But one last question for you, Taylor. With Andor the character, he is the sort of hero of his own story as this series progresses, but how do you feel about his gradual transition? He doesn't seem ready to join the rebellion cause yet. He's got the manifesto this episode, but he's kind of in it for himself at this point. What are you thinking of his journey overall in the show?
I'm fascinated. I can't wait to see all the things that happened to him that caused him to change to who we saw in Rogue One. Who's still the same guy, by the way. Still the same guy, but he has more of a cause in Rogue One. Right now, he doesn't have that cause. Right now, he has his own priorities. He's and we saw at the end of this episode, I'm taking my cut and I'm getting out of here. All right, enjoy your rebellion, because he probably knows that the Empire is about to rain hell down on everybody. All right, so he's cutting and running. So I'm really interested to see what happens later, what he sees, because right now he's not like again, and I love pulp. I love the simple stuff where you don't have to do a lot of character development stuff. But that's not what this is. This is like reading a book. Like each episode is like a chapter in this. So he's not a guy who says, I see injustice before me, I must do something about it. No, he's like, I got my own problems, pal. I'll do what I got to do.
Yeah. In many ways, he could be a Han Solo, but with a little less comedy. But I'm also very interested in seeing how we get from this guy who just won't come in from the cold to a guy who's like staunchly for the rebellion cause by the time we get to Rogue One 5 or 6 years from now. So, yeah. But all right, guys, out in fandom land, you've gotten the initial impressions from both Taylor and Grandmaster. We've got high praise for this, and we're also acknowledging that there's a very, very different aesthetic to Andor that's different than the shows that have come before. But now we're going to take a couple of minutes just to do some deep dive, a little analysis, see what it is that we really thought worked about the episodes. Grandmaster, Taylor, if there were moments that really stood out to you that you really appreciated, let us know. And if there was stuff that just really didn't ring true for you, we want to hear about that too. I'll start with Grandmaster in this round.
Well, I actually don't have any complaints about this week's episode. The thing that actually stood out to me is that it was very, and I'm talking about Star Wars here, realistic. And those guys, they had a plan to perform a heist on this base. They prepared everything. They knew the exact moment. They had an inside man who could set up things so they had the most chance of getting away with it. And it all worked until, of course, what always happens when you execute a plan, people that are supposed to play a role in your plan act differently, like the guy on the dam. That all of a sudden listens in. He has a little bit higher technical skill than they may have thought about, and then he listens into the conversation between Echo 1 and Valley 1, and he figures out, hey, there's something going on. We need to go to the vault with a group of people, and that's where people start dying, and where things go wrong, because he doesn't trust his lieutenant for some reason, because it looks odd what's happening, and the lieutenant is saying, you need to go. So he figures out very quickly, hey, this is not right. I can't trust this guy anymore, and then things go wrong for this little rebel group. I thought that was very realistic, and that really stood out for me. And the fact that when they move away and then they all fall back into the cargo hole, and then the cargo hits the guy, I can't remember his name right now, and then he gets crushed by the Imperial credits and dies. after his heroic thing with
I believe that was Nemec, but
Nemec. Yeah.
don't quote me.
And then he guides the group out of the eye and into safety, but he dies in the process. I thought that was absolutely realistic in that way, and the heroes ran into stuff which doesn't work. What happens at that moment? They haven't planned for that.
Right. They have to do a lot of improvising.
No, yeah, but the things that happen in real life as well, accidents, things fall, things, or you take into account, or at that moment, and stuff happens to you, and you face the consequences of that. And I really like it. That was the real highlight of the show for me. That it's just that the plan worked up until a point where it didn't anymore, and then they just took off. And yeah, I really took that. And yeah, I didn't really care for that group of people at the temple. I know they had to put it in there to have like yeah, the indigenous people. I know they had to in there because to distract the soldiers, to be in awe of the eye as well and stuff like that, and that's why they could get away from the base and everything. I know it served the purpose, but I couldn't care less. Goat skins, smelly goat skins. Yeah, I'm actually on the Empire side of things. I don't need that kind of stuff in my life. But anyway, but yeah, overall, and I love that there's not much distraction in this episode. I mean, like going back to other storylines or other characters that have nothing to do with this heist. It was the heist and the heist alone up until the end, where you see the different reaction of other characters we have seen so far in the show to the news that is breaking out that there was a big heist happening at a base, which cost the Republic a lot of money, and and see how they react. Mosfra gets interrupted in her speech. You have the Imperials who all of a sudden calls all his department heads or whatever they're called, or parsec heads or whatever, and they all have to show in their readiness state before midnight, because now all of a sudden there's a problem. Well, the blonde lady tried to tell you that, but you didn't listen. So maybe it's on you as well, a little bit, Mr. High Commander. And of course, you have Luthen, who hears it from a customer in his antique shop, and who can't control his happiness. And I thought that was actually great. And he doesn't even know that half of the group is wiped out. Andor took off with a ship he paid for from his cut, but he still took off with the ship and left the rebellion, basically, for as far as we know at the moment. So his rebel cell is, well, splintered up, because one is out away with the planet with the money, and the other one is still on the planet. So that's gone, but it's a major victory, because now they take it seriously. They officially announce it in the news as a rebellion, which makes him very happy. It's the start of something, as was teased in last week's episode. Overall, excellent episode. I can only give it high marks, but I believe you will have a section for that later.
We'll jump to ratings right after we get Taylor's in-depth thoughts.
Well, he can go ahead, because I can only rave on about this, and I'm sure he wants to do the same. So I will give the stage to him.
All right. The floor is now to you, Taylor. Weak spots, strong spots, things that were memorable. What did you think?
I agree completely with everything Grandmaster said. There's so many great moments in this episode. And I also agree that I'm glad we didn't have to watch the guy eat cereal again in this episode. They focused on one thing. So I thought that was all good. But yeah, great moments. There's the moment where they're waiting for their leader to give the go. They're on the radio and saying, "Are we go? Are we a go?" I can't remember if that was the exact term they used, but they said, "Are we a go?" And she hesitated, and you saw her face, and you thought for a second, "Holy crap, is she going to say scrub this thing?"
Yeah.
Because it was so much good acting, and she was scared. And again, another example of giving depth to these characters. Of course, she was scared. She didn't want to see everybody get killed in this suicide mission that they're going on. So there was that hesitation, and finally she said, "Yes, go." So that was one great moment. Another one was I just loved the TIE fighters getting prepped on those rails, whatever they were on, and the pilots jumping in and getting set up and then launching. And then what other great? I mean, there's just so many such tiny moments when the Imperial lieutenant is taking his squad down to investigate what's going on because he heard that radio message.
Right.
One of the I don't know if you even caught it. One of the guys is like, "We'll miss the eye." Did you hear him say that?
I did catch
he
that.
was going down. Again, these are people. He's and like I said, like the in commander of the facility there. He has a family. Have we ever seen the wife and kids of an Imperial officer in Star Wars before? I don't think so. But these are real people. They have families. They have lives. They want to see the eye, and the eye was spectacular.
Anakin.
There you go.
We have seen his family.
Yep.
Well, we're talking about your standard issue.
A lot.
Imperial Commandant. Like we've never taken a look at like an executive officer in the Imperial Army and seen their family or their backstory. They're just kind of like faceless fascists that dedicate their entire lives to the Emperor and Darth Vader.
They breed sick children, but that is another story. Taylor,
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
And the another great moment, or like the one that Grandmaster was already talking about when the news was spreading about this event. It felt like historical movies that you've seen about like the American Revolution when word went out about the Lexington and Concord, the shot heard around the world. You just felt like something big has just happened. And I always say his name wrong, Luthen, whatever his name was. Yes, he was joyous, but you could tell at the end, what comes next,
Right.
That we can't turn around anymore, We're all in now.
Yeah.
So that all felt really good. Just the tiny little scene of the intelligence headquarters where, all hell was breaking loose. No, you're not going home tonight. Tell your families again. Tell your families you're not going home. Pull out all of the contingency plans for punishment or something to that effect.
Retaliation.
They have contingency plans to punish people. He said, pull all those out. We're going to look at them. And just that one little moment. It was just great. I for this episode, I have nothing bad to say. I had been a little bit saying to myself the last couple of episodes, we are watching Star Wars, right? Where are the aliens? Where are all the aliens? But we did have the four-armed doctor show up in this one, so there are still some aliens. And I'm thinking as the show moves forward, we're going to get more aliens and more droids as we go along. But overall, yeah, spectacular.
Right. Very, very much so. Couldn't agree with you more. And I agree with you about my favorite moment in the episode was really when you hear the announcement that they pulled off the raid and you're in Luthen's shop. And it's this moment where you see a disciplined spy master break cover. Just for that moment, he can't help but be self-congratulatory and like make an excuse to go in the back so he can kind of he doesn't know who's dead. He doesn't know if they got the money, but he knows to some extent they pulled it off. And I think that was my absolute favorite moment in the episode. But I was also there for a moment when they're taking off with the money. And there are two firsts in this episode that I think I've never seen in Star Wars ever. Someone used the bathroom, even though it was outdoors. I don't think anyone's ever done that in Star Wars ever. And two, you actually see physical Imperial credits, right? They're not just like a digital thing people trade. So I was like, oh, wow, this is real money and it's gold. But when Nemec gets crushed by that big cargo sort of hold of the credits, I was like, oh wow, I felt that, like he's probably going to die too, and spoilers, he does. But Grandmaster, you had a quick follow-up?
Yeah, going back to what Taylor said about aliens and stuff. I actually love that it's not heavy on the Force, not heavy on aliens, not heavy on droids. It's just raw story of people trying to get something going and get what they want and succeeding without all the Star Wars distractions, which usually are there to cover up the fact that it's not very good.
The story is thin.
Yes, and now the story is good. It doesn't need it, so I'm actually quite happy that it doesn't need all that stuff. I'm sure we're gonna get it. I mean, K2SO will show up at some point. I mean, he was with Andor the whole time in Rogue One, so was it him or am I mixing up Solo now? I don't know, but there was a droid, right?
K2SO is the
It's
reprogrammed
yeah.
Imperial droid of Rogue One. You are on the money there, Grandmaster.
Yeah. So we will get that kind of stuff, but I actually like that we now had like a few episodes where that stuff was not there, and that the story stands on its own. And not for nothing, Lord Deathman opens with one of the best Disney Plus shows on Star Wars, or Star Wars Disney Plus shows. I think it's the best Star Wars show on Disney Plus, and I think it's one of the best things Star Wars has ever done.
Wow. And you've got fierce competition because The Mandalorian is no slouch as a show. That's a great...
No. The Mandalorian is great, but it can't compare to the writing on the show. I'm sorry. Yeah. The Mandalorian drives also on nostalgia, on the typical Star Wars stuff, on fan favorite characters showing up, and then this just stands on its own. We have seen Diego Luna in Rogue One, what's considered one of the best Star Wars movies. And they took that character, but they also took the vibe from that movie and they put it in the show, and it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I don't think there's anything on Disney Plus when it comes to originals that even compares to the show.
Yeah, it's extremely well acted. And I thought to myself that this show, before I saw it, I thought this could be a weak show because it's about Andor. We know what's going to happen to Andor. It's only 5 years out from Rogue One. I thought there's a lot of challenges here, but what they did to compensate was just surround him with incredible actors that are three-dimensional, that are making three-dimensional characters. So it's not always about Andor, but when you do get Diego Luna in front of the camera giving you his point of view, it's fantastic. And plus, Cassian Andor will shoot you. I love that about him. He'll be like, listen, I don't know what else to do here, so I'm just going to pull out a blaster. He's worse than Han Solo.
This just popped in my head, but it's incredibly funny. He is actually a rebel without a cause.
Yeah. Yes, he fits that description perfectly, but I love what Diego Luna's doing. Love the way they've been writing the show, and we've been saying the same thing over and over again. But the show really demands it. It is fantastic. You got to give credit to Mon Mothma, Genevieve O'Reilly, who's playing that character, to see what her life was like before she got into the rebellion as someone of position and wealth, and her disaffected, apathetic children and husband who are just enjoying their privilege while she's secretly trying to carry the weight of joining the rebellion. They're just doing a fantastic job of, breaking these characters down, making us care for them while they tell us where they came from. But, we've been spitting out a lot of praise for this show here. I do want to move into the next segment where we talk about rating. It seems like a foregone conclusion what kind of rating you need to give this particular episode, but let's hear it from the men, the myth, the legends themselves. We'll start with you, Taylor. What is your rating for The Eye?
Yeah, this episode gets a 10 out of 10. There's just no way around it. What could I possibly take points away for?
Yeah, there's no quibbling with this one. It would be really, really hard, They're taking Star Wars and they're elevating it. Again, no precocious children, no cute droids. And not that that stuff is not a lot of fun and we expect it out of Star Wars, but if we were to compare this to a more divisive show like She-Hulk, if you took away the sci-fi, I transform into a jolly green female giant, and you left that story in the normal world, it would be pretty mediocre, bland stuff, right? It's like this lady just likes to get laid and tell mediocre jokes. But if you took Andor out of its sci-fi trappings and fantasy world and put it into any genre, really, even the real world, it would still be really engaging stuff. And that's what I really love about it. But Grandmaster, let's jump to you. What do you think? The Eye. What is your rating on this episode?
2 out of 10. No, of course not. it's a 10 out of 10. Taylor is absolutely on the money here. This episode there was absolutely nothing wrong with it, and I've been talking about it all the time already. So, and I just want to say She-Hulk has no business being mentioned in a review about this great show.
In review,
no. And I'm a big MCU fan, more so than a Star Wars fan. But no, I'm happy. Well, this basically is The Empire Strikes Back on a meta level, where Star Wars is absolutely destroying the MCU at the moment.
Yeah, it really is. That's another conversation in another show. But we've seen Star Wars clearly surpass the MCU recently. They are surpassing fandoms like Star Trek. When I saw those TIE fighters, those pilots jump into the cockpit of those TIE fighter ships, they've got those clickable analog switches and they're moving things and it feels so tactile. And Star Trek is like this complete laser light show, right? Everything's a hologram and you're like touching nothing, and visual effects weapons are coming out of nowhere. It just feels so much grounded with Star Wars. Lots of credit to the production design team on Andor and all the Star Wars shows, frankly. But Grandmaster, your
coming back,
thoughts?
Following up on your mentioning of Star Trek, I am a major Trekkie, as you know, and
same here.
I haven't seen Disco season 4. Couldn't care less about it. Stopped halfway through Picard season 2, and what Star Wars is doing on TV is everything Star Trek wish it was.
Yeah,
they completely obliterated that franchise when it comes to best sci-fi on TV, and Star Trek is a TV franchise from its origin,
right.
And Star Wars is not. Well, Star Trek.
You have Star Wars steal that crown from Star Trek.
It's not even close anymore. And I'm talking about recent Trek. I mean, what happened in the old days still stands on its own and it's fine and it's great. But what Star Wars is doing now is taking everything into a whole nother level. And I only applaud them for it, and I hope the people at Paramount will take a good look at what Star Wars is doing and shape up and serve the fans worldwide and not only in
hope you're listening,
parts.
Paramount. Either get it together or get ready to sell the franchise. One more in Disney's back pocket, because at this point, I wouldn't mind if they had control of it. But anyway.
Bring in Jon Favreau to run stuff at Paramount. But anyway.
Yeah, indeed. But you know what? We're not going to stray here. I want to solicit any final thoughts that either of you have about this episode. If not, we will close out. All right. We are happy that you've been able to join us for this episode and this review with the Review of Champions. We'd love to hear what you have to say about our thoughts in the comments. You can you can subscribe, do all that type of stuff if you please, if you're compelled to do so. And we just want to wish the audience non-toxic fandom. Be safe out there. Do your thing on social media, but try to be a part of the solution and not the problem. This is Lord Deathman, and you've been listening to the Podcast of Champions. And until next time, be well.